excited to be back in the studio again with a good friend, an old friend, I have to say. We're back here, looking here at the 1983 Elm, and I would like to welcome to the show tonight, Gary Fox.
Hey, thank you, Michelle. Yeah.
How you doing?
It's
been a long time.
It has, 83. It's just, doesn't, some ways it seems like yesterday, other ways it seems like a whole other life ago, you know?
I know, it really does.
Yeah.
We're just chatting, talking about I have a daughter graduating, and you have one in high school.
I have a son in high school, one in middle school, in Southington. Yeah. And, yeah, time flies.
Not too long ago, that's where we were.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Well, this is great. I appreciate you inviting me on. I watched the show with Jimmy Bell and Jeff Pitchell, both good friends of mine, and you did a great job. And I just think it's a great idea.
We're really having fun with this, and like I mentioned earlier, I did a little bit of a research on, some really famous musicians, and it seems like most of the really famous bands that are out there, rock and roll bands, most of them were born late 30s, to mid 40s. But Wethersfield, it's the 60s. We've got a lot of really great talent.
1965.
There
right
you go. There you
go. The World War II thing, my favorite music, classic rock, the Beatles, the Stones, Who, Zeppelin, they're all from Great Britain, right? And those guys were all born just when you said.
Right.
And they were kids. They were 2 or 3, 4 years old. And, bombs are raining on them. It's World War II,
right.
The Blitzkrieg. And I think that was the fuel for the energy and the passion and the great music that came out when they became older,
Yeah.
So
amazing.
it is interesting.
So very interesting. And so at what age did you start your musical career then?
The first time I played in front of people that I think, Hanmer School, we had 6th grade graduation, and they were supposed to play a Disney movie. They had the projector set up with the film, in the old days,
right.
And they couldn't get it to work. They kept trying. They had somebody come over, and then the Heather Anderson, I think, came up to me. She's like, "Oh my God, we have no entertainment. You play the piano. Come on." I'm like, no. She's like, you have to, and literally dragged me to the piano. And I had never played in front of the whole school, and I just sat down and did what my father taught me, jam blues, boogie woogie, and just kind of jammed out. But everybody liked it. I was surprised. That was the first time, I played in front of people besides my family. And then, professionally, making money. In high school with the band Onyx,
right.
which Mr. Sales was the great guitar teacher and music teacher. He's the reason.
I forgot my Onyx album. I do have one. It's still kicking around.
Well, Mr. Sales is the reason that most of us got a career in music, because at such a young age he taught us not only to play all these instruments, and he was not only a good guitar teacher, he could sit down at the piano and figure out a song in a second by ear. I remember him teaching me things that years later I would use, when I was playing with physical graffiti and doing it for a living. Invaluable lessons. Like, I remember him saying, good musicians can play ahead of the beat a little bit, or they can play behind the beat. And I was like, what are you talking about? You just got to play in time. But then, as you mature, you understand what he taught me years ago. And he was, a huge influence on all of us Wethersfield, 1960s born
definitely.
kids. Yeah.
We keep coming back to Mr. Sales. We're going to have to get him on the show, I think. We were chatting about that.
We had a reunion 14 or 15 years ago, an Onyx reunion. Paul Hoffman came down from Maine. I hadn't seen him in forever. I wouldn't even recognize him, but and it was really fun.
We need to do that
but
here on the show.
Yeah, I know, right? But he moved. Everybody's spread out. Greg Vaughn's in California. Last I knew, anyway. He moved down south somewhere. His kids, Mr. Sales' kids, are great musicians. Nick Pangakis from Onyx, posted a video on Facebook of Mr. Sales' kids. They play music, incredible musicians. So, I mean, it's in his genes for sure.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your dad and something that your dad taught you, and you know, oh, and we should say, you know, Heather turned out to be our class president, so that's, you know, just, she's a go-getter, making everything right at the right moment. But back to your dad. So, at what age did you start?
The piano was always in the house, and he played a lot, you know. And actually, in the '70s, he was like one of these Billy Joel piano guys doing the bar scene where they had the piano bars, and you know, he would play. You know, he would go out and do it, but it was part-time. You know, he's a psychologist. That was just a hobby, sort of. But he's a great musician, and he taught himself. He plays by ear. So anyway, from the time I was born, he was always playing the piano, from Jerry Lee Lewis and Billy Joel to like Rachmaninoff and all this wide variety of piano stuff. And when you're just exposed to that, it seeps in, you know. And you know, so I just started playing, and I took some lessons. I must have been 6 or 7 years old, and I took the classical, and for maybe 6 months, and I'm learning to read music, and it was going so slow, and when I could sit down and play, like he taught me the blues and boogie woogie, I could do that, but then the classical music, which I love now, and I in some ways wish I kept up, but you know, I didn't have, it was easier for me to put a song on and just listen and play it. So I taught myself, you know, although I did take about a year of jazz piano, high school time, and then you know, little courses here and there. I took a course at Creative Music by this guy, Dennis. It was a synthesizer course on the South Steen Highway, which was cool, and taught me multi-track recording. You know, so over the years, you know, you pick up a little here, a little there. Yeah. That's
amazing. Well, the piano is my favorite. I took piano when I was younger, Mr. Valancourt. I don't know, is that?
I think my sister took it from him.
I think he was kind of, he was around Wethersfield and Red River Valley. Familiar. That was the only song I ever played, so, and I wasn't very good at it. That was it for me. So I have a huge appreciation for the piano, because I know how difficult it is. It's not an easy instrument.
But anything you do every day, like it wasn't practice. I played all the time. I didn't think of it as practice. It was fun. You know, so, you know,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, who do you think was your inspiration then? Is it kind of going down to Dad there? Sounds like.
Well, for sure.
And then
but musically, Stevie Wonder has always been my favorite musician of all time, I think. Whenever I hear, you know, his voice, everything he does, you know, I'll be driving, you know, the radio's on, and you hear music and you're into it, and a Stevie Wonder song comes on, and I'm just, my limbs are moving, without even realizing it. He's just infectious, you know, and he's such a great singer and songwriter, and so he's probably the pinnacle of
that's awesome.
Of music, in my opinion, you know, and not only, you know, what he says in his music, and in 2007 he was playing at the Mohegan Sun Arena. I went down to see him in concert, and the show ends. I'm by myself. I'm up high in the back. It was over 2 hours of amazing performance, great band. And I watch them go off stage to the back left side of the stage. And in my head, and I'm high up, so I'm going to wait for the crowd to go out and the lights come on, and I'm kind of just sitting there. And I said, I wonder if, I don't think he has groupies. No, he's, you know, I don't think there's people going to see him, but I wonder if I can get backstage to see him. So as I'm walking down, I go out, and I saw the area where he went, and there was a couple of security guards standing there. And from being in music all my life and backstage and comfortable, there's I didn't have a laminate or I didn't have a pass or anything, but I know what it. If you, I did the Jedi mind trick on these security guards. I said I acted like I belonged there, and I just walked right by them. They didn't stop me. They must have thought you know, it's part of something. And I get backstage.
Perfect situation.
It was amazing. Well, I thought they were going to throw me out. And I get backstage, and this guy comes up, and he's one of the managers. And I said, he's like, "How did you get in here? Who are you?" Da, 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 da. And I said, "Listen, if there's anybody on the planet Earth right now that I would want to meet, anyone, it would be Stevie Wonder. You know, his music inspires me. And I don't want to bother him. It's just a quick, nice to meet you. That's it." And he's thinking, and I thought he was going to throw me out. He goes, "Hold on." He goes, "Sit over there." There's about 20 people in a section, and they were like ticket winners, and they did have a backstage thing.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
yeah, he sat me down. Like a half an hour later, they brought us in a back room. There was an electric keyboard set up, and we're all waiting. And his band was there. I started talking to some of those guys. They said he's going to come out. Don't take any pictures. They had a photographer. And one at a time, each person went up, and when I went up to meet him, yeah, it was so great. I said, yeah, you are just. I said, this is like meeting Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and Jesus rolled into one, because that's what his music is like, just peace and love. I mean, and he was moved. He grabbed me. I was like, holy cow. I said, I'm a musician. He had the piano, and he was sitting at the piano. I go, can I play a couple songs, a little bit? He goes, sit down. And I sat down, played a couple of my songs. Not the whole thing, just a verse and a chorus. And it was just to be able to do that.
That is very
cool. I was like, I walked out of there floating. I was so high, like on, yeah, it was so cool.
Wow, what a great guy too. Then,
and he was old. His mother had just died a few months ago, and he wasn't going to play anymore, and he was home depressed, and he called up his manager agent. He said, I want to play again. He says, okay, we'll get a tour for next year. He says, no, I want to play again. I want to be out there like next week. And in 2 weeks, they got a band together, and they put some shows together. So it was his.
No, when you're Stevie Wonder.
It was his. Yeah, I know. But
that's cool. Amazing. So what a great story.
My influence. And then, of course, Led Zeppelin and the Beatles. Those two, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles are the best.
The best.
Yeah, and yeah. And Ani DeFranco. I got to add her in. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ani DeFranco.
No.
She's a singer-songwriter from Buffalo, who's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, really amazing.
So just like not really on the main circuit, just somebody that you've met.
She has a cult following. She has her own. She's put out probably 20-something CDs over the last 20 or 30 years, and tours and sells out theaters. But she's not played on the radio unless it's a college station. Very political songs, very emotional, but I mean intense. She's great singer, songwriter, guitar player. Great. She has a good band with her, and
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah, she's up there with Stevie, Zeppelin, and the Beatles, in my opinion.
So we know where the influence came from, and obviously, you've talked about a couple of the bands that you've been in, and we know you went to Wethersfield High School. Did you do anything after high school, either musically or educationally, or in another job? Or music. I've always been in a band, really, since the time I was 11. Right after playing that thing at the Hanmer School, my best friend Mark Hunter, who played drums, and I started a band called Illusion. And I have actually recordings of Mark on the drums and me playing my dad's upright piano in the living room. We recorded original songs, at like 11, 12 years old. So, and then Onyx in high school, which we talked about, playing all the schools around Kingswood, Oxford, and Avon Old Farms. And that was huge for high school students back in the day.
It was so much fun and such a great experience, Not only for the bands, I mean, we had kids running lights and doing sound and roadieing and the whole production. And so after graduation, and then, after Onyx, Joe Guadagno, who was from 1983, another graduate, and I had a band called J. Gandy Fox. Joe Gandy, he's in New York City now. He's dedicated his life. You should get him on here, too. Songwriter, singer, guitar player. We had a band for a few years and played some gigs locally around. Went into a big-time recording studio down by the city and did some original music. Never took off. And at the same time, I was going to UConn. So for a couple of years. I had dropped out of UConn to do music because it's my passion.
Right.
I said, I was in the School of Engineering. I was on the dean's list. But, I couldn't picture sitting behind a desk, just doing math all day. I wanted to play music. So I dropped out of school, did J. Gandy Fox, and hoping to be the next Bon Jovi and Journey, because that's what we were kind of like a mixture of.
Right.
And writing all our own music. Played some gigs, got some stuff going, but it never took off. So I decided, okay, I tried it. I'm going back to college. So I went back to UConn for a third year, and at that same time, Matt Heatherman, Doug Putnam, who Physical Graffiti was a band, everyone used to go see, and I loved them, playing all Zeppelin.
Right.
And those guys were great. They came to me, they said, Mark Pendergrast,
actually,
he was playing bass for them. He couldn't get a few weeks off, 3 weeks from his job. They were going on a tour down in Pennsylvania.
I remember this story.
Right, so they asked me, you guys, you wanna join the band? I said, no, I'm going back to college. I tried music, I'm done with music. I can't. Besides, I didn't even play the bass. I was a keyboard player, and John Paul Jones is an amazing bass player. I played a little guitar. I'd never played the bass. So the tour was like in a couple of weeks. I said, I can't do it. But they kept asking, and they asked like a third time, come on, there's nobody else, you got to do it. I said, all right, I'll do it temporarily. I'll learn the songs, which is a lot of work.
Right.
And learning to play John Paul Jones bass was tough, real tough. He's an amazing musician. I met him too years later.
That's great.
Yeah, he's incredible. But the funny thing was, I temporarily joined Physical Graffiti, and we had so much fun. And playing to 300-400 people, big crowds, big shows, making a little bit of money, and then from there, traveling, and then from there, my whole 20s, my entire 20s was full-time musician with Led Zeppelin tribute, Physical Graffiti, and we all over Canada, all over the United States. We toured Israel twice.
You guys were really famous, I'd have to say, back in the day. You really
Wethersfield was almost the tribute band capital of the world. Before there was, now there's tributes to everything. I mean, the tribute band is there's so many of them. But back then, there really was only the Blushing Brides from Canada, Maurice, and they're still playing. I just saw them last year because we've done some gigs with them too. And they're a great, Maurice is an amazing Mick Jagger. I mean, you see him in a club, and it's almost like seeing Mick Jagger. It's so good.
Wow.
So with Jeff Pitchell started out doing Stevie Ray Vaughan tribute,
That's
Texas
right.
Flood, and we had us, Physical Graffiti. You had Eamon doing Riders on the Storm, Doors tribute. And there was others, too. Rob Vaughn did a Lynyrd Skynyrd tribute for a while. And Wethersfield was this, like, tribute band capital.
We have some really great talent coming out of here. And so Physical Graffiti, I have to say, I was a big fan. I don't think that I went to any of the shows that when you were playing. Mark and I were friends in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually, one of the things that we used to joke about all the time was we actually walked the aisle together. Graduation.
Yeah, right. When you first texted me on Facebook and you said we walked the aisle, I said, Mark's not. He got married? I go, what? I didn't think he did. Yeah, right.
That was always our joke.
Yeah.
I saw quite a few of their shows, back in the day, and just amazing. I mean, they really, to everyone that was at the show, thought what you're saying. Well, what a great tribute.
The thing about it was it happened organically. So Matt Heatherman, his teenage years he was a Jimmy Page fanatic, so he had a Les Paul, and he learned to play the violin bow, like Jimmy Page. I mean, note for note, he studied it like a gospel, and he did his homework, and he was so good. And he says most guitar players start with Jimmy Page, and then he gets you into music, and then they move on to Jeff Beck or Joe Satriani or technical guitar players and jazz guitar players. But he just said. He didn't move on. He just stuck with Jimmy Page, and that was it. But he has the soul of Jimmy Page more than... I've seen so many guitar players who play Jimmy Page, and they can play the notes perfect. But it's more than that. Matt has the slop, he calls it. It's slop, it's the feel. He says it's the perfect combination of Jack Daniels and cocaine. You just got to get the right combination. That was his old joke. He knows the secret mix. And Doug Putnam happened to be blonde-haired.
Right.
A great singer, a powerful voice,
great front man.
We would go to Matt's basement and have parties, and Matt's brother Rich played drums, and everyone would sit in, and we'd play all different kinds of music, Deep Purple and Stones and whatever, classic rock. But whenever we played a Zeppelin song, or they did, I was watching half the time, Doug would sound like Robert Plant, but he was just singing.
Right.
He was just singing.
Singing, yeah.
But he just happened to be able to do the plant thing. He had a great range. So it just kind of happened. And at the beginning, I know Doug wanted to play other music. You know, he wanted to spread out. He didn't want to just play only Led Zeppelin, but it was Matt's idea. And not only that, everyone's saying, when you guys do Zeppelin, it's
Zeppelin.
Just, yeah, it is. So it kind of happened that way. You know, instead of, oh, let's see, what band could we become a tribute to that will bring in, you know, make some money? This just happened, you know, naturally, organically.
That's
which
awesome.
I think is... You know.
And it's still going.
Yeah, it is still going. We took a hiatus for a while, different members in and out. And then I should say, Eamon was the original drummer with Physical Graffiti.
That's right.
But we went through like Spinal Tap, quite a few drummers in the first year or two. And then Johnny Mack, who worked at Creative Music on the South Stein Highway at the Drum Integrity. And he was in a band with our sound man, Pete Fagan, and we were looking for a drummer, and Pete said, "Oh, you got to have Johnny come in," and he was great, you know, and he made the four. Those are the four that, you know, played all 2,000 gigs together.
Wow,
2,000 shows.
Wow, that's what they're
it's
up
hard to believe. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is
like
a
you
lot.
said, we're still playing, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Led Zeppelin's not anymore. So you are them.
Yeah, there are a lot of really good Zeppelin tribute bands out there, but a lot of them don't dress and don't give a show. They'll have 6 guys in the band, so they do the overdubs. You know, we have the four of us, and we use the same instruments, and you know, really try to do the whole show. And of course, now it's part time, and now we play once every month or two. So it's kind of for fun and everything. But it was a great career, and just traveling, so much fun.
So much fun, yeah.
Oh my God, the rock star life. So you know, it's like what I dreamed about.
And
Lived it.
and that makes it worth it. I mean, especially it's not work when you're having fun and you're doing what you love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, so that was a great move. Your little part-time, I'm really not going to do this for very long thing. And you got to meet the band?
I got to meet John Paul Jones. He was playing at Toad's place. This is where Physical Graffiti, we must have done 15, 20 gigs there over the years. And we would play to 600, 700, 800 people there. I mean, good crowds. So I went down to see John Paul Jones when he did a solo tour. This must have been 15 years ago, because I know, my son was an infant. And so we go in there, and there's about 300 or 400 people. And his keyboards are set up right where I'm usually set up. And he's playing his own music, and then he played some Zeppelin, of course. And he's the most amazing musician. He could play a pedal steel, like Black Dog, on a pedal steel. He played keyboards, guitar, bass, and just an amazing musician. And but it was so surreal being in the audience, hearing the songs that I played. The guy who's in Zeppelin, and he's got 300 or 400 people, and we've played shows there with twice as many people sold. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Like not fair. Like it seems strange. So anyway. That show, he played. I know where the dressing room was. I knew the guys that worked down there, but I didn't want to bother them. But after the show was over, I was hanging out front and kind of waiting. Maybe he'll come up. I'd just say a quick hello. Before the show, I had met his tour manager and talked with him, told him about the Physical Graffiti. And he was like, oh, yeah. We talked Zeppelin for like a half an hour. And after the show, one of the guys that worked at Toad's place, I'm like, oh, did he come out already? He goes, he bolted out the back door. He snuck out. He goes, but he's staying at the hotel right around the corner. And there's a bar down there. They said they were going to go have a drink. So I walked in there with my ex-wife, and we sit down at the bar. There's hardly anybody there, but I see 4 guys sitting at the far corner, and one of them's John Paul Jones. And I felt strange. Like, I don't want to intrude. I don't want to be a fan thing. So I just sat there. We ordered a drink. I wasn't really going to say anything. I said, oh, this is just cool, just sitting with him. And then his manager sees me and calls me over, and he's like, John, this is the guy I was telling you about who plays in this tribute band. So I got to meet him. And a gracious,
so cool.
British gentleman, very nice guy. And, we didn't talk much. He signed a shirt for me. But
Well, that's excellent, though.
And he's got, I would like to tell everybody, have you ever heard of Them Crooked Vultures?
No.
Yeah, right. This is John Paul Jones, Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters,
Oh.
and the guy from Queens of the Stone Age. I can't remember his name. Incredible band. This band is like a mixture of Zeppelin and the Doors and David Bowie and the Foo Fighters all mixed together.
Dave Grohl is just amazing.
Oh my God!
And
yeah, he's another one
yeah.
of those heroes. When I said Stevie Wonder's,
right?
Put him up there.
Yeah, we have to put him on the list.
He does it all: guitar, drums, singing.
Yeah,
he's a modern day. I bet he was. I wonder if he was born in the '60s.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. It's too bad he wasn't born in Wethersfield.
I know, right? Then
he graduated in '83.
Yeah, right. but yeah, so.
So very cool. And so we were talking earlier, and there's a little show coming up. You mentioned that you have.
Yeah, it's sold out already. Just a Polish-American club in Newington. It's kind of back to the old days when we used to play halls, Ukrainian hall, and so we're back to playing. For fun.
Yeah, just fun.
Yeah,
and
people are like, "Why don't you guys play? Why don't you play?" So yeah.
And people know who you are. So as soon as
so
the word gets out, it's
yeah, right. So look for Physical Graffiti. We'll be around.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah, and it'll be fun. It's like a reunion now. Everybody comes out. You haven't seen them for years.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool.
Excellent. So, so what other bands have you been with, or what other things kind of keep you going now that you're on the part-time?
Well, there's been a lot of bands over over the years. I played with Tony Shaw in a band called The Sages way back when, and it was like a mix of the Police and the Cars, and all original. Tony Shaw wrote some really good, he still writes good songs. But that, nothing took off. Then in the 90s, in between Physical Graffiti, I played in a band called The Seducers. Now, The Seducers was Jamie Sherwood on guitar, who was from Southington, and he was friends with John Mack, who's the drummer from Physical Graffiti, and he asked me to join his band, and this band, the singer was from L.A. Her name is Liz Constantine, and she sings on TV commercials. Like if you're watching the World Cup soccer and you see a Kia ad, it's her voice, singing in the ad. And she makes a great living, and she's an amazing singer. So Holly Knight, who's a songwriter who wrote for Pat Benatar, like Love is a Battlefield is one of her songs. She wrote Rag Doll with Aerosmith.
Oh, wow.
Holly Knight worked with Jamie and Liz and wrote a bunch of songs. And this was The Seducers, and we recorded in the studio some stuff, and we played some local gigs, even right around Hartford. I was, having Holly Knight as a songwriter was, we had our hopes up, but, it's 1 in a million to make it big.
Right.
It's really tough. So for whatever reason, that never took off. A lot
but
of
still a great experience with some really
experience.
Talented people. So that's.
Yep. Then.
And that's the music industry, right? I mean, this is what I keep getting from everyone that I've talked to, that there's highs and there's lows, but there's like that in life. That is life.
Yeah.
But in this industry,
especially on the road with the band, like I remember the good times now, but on the road with Physical Graffiti, when you're out for a month at a time and you're not home and it's a different hotel and you can't eat, and you're not feeling well and it's winter and the truck breaks down and there are some lows that can be really tough, and then the highs are the exact opposite. Yeah, like life, like you said. Now, you think look back, you just remember the good times.
Yeah.
But there were some tough times too.
Right.
What was I had a thought, and then a few years back, Matt was living in Florida, Matt Heatherman, and he met up with a singer named Gary Ireland who had a band in Florida called Physical Graffiti, Zeppelin tribute band. He called me up and he said, "We got some gigs. You want to play? Well, Gary wants to fly you down. We got a few gigs here and there." And I said, "Sure, it's Zeppelin,
Yeah.
And Greg Thompson was the drummer, who's a great drummer, and flew down to Florida, played some gigs, and then like a little while later, he calls me up again. He says, "We got a gig. We have one show in Bogota, Colombia." At a theater.
Wow.
Physical Graffiti. Not with Doug singing.
Right.
This is the Florida Physical Graffiti. Gary. And Gary, this time, he was friends with the drummer from Molly Hatchet, Sean Beamer, who I never met. and he put this band together. I flew to Florida. We flew to Bogota, Colombia, and stayed for a couple nights and played this gig in a theater down there. It's just
That's
bizarre.
incredible.
You get a phone call. Next thing you know, you're in Colombia. Yeah, and it was cool. It was so awesome.
What a great experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember the first night we got there. We're in a bar, having a couple drinks. Next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Those guys were all gone. The hotel was like a mile up the street. We had walked there. And the bar's closing out. I'm by myself. The show was the next night. And I'm like, okay, I got to walk a mile.
Where do I go?
It was on the same street.
Oh,
It was a one-way. I wasn't that drunk. But I'm in Bogota, Colombia by myself. And you think of drugs and violence. And it was the exact opposite. It was like
just
walking.
low-key.
It was just clean. It was the north. If you were in the south of Bogota, forget it. It's the exact opposite. The north was beautiful hotels, clean, nice, well lit, no problem. Just like walking down.
And how
Main
was the
Street in
crowd?
Wethersfield.
I mean,
the crowd was great.
Yeah. They're singing
People
the
love
songs
Zeppelin
and
everywhere.
That's so funny, right?
Israel, we probably got the greatest reception of all.
Oh, you
was
played in Israel.
Yeah.
Wow.
In '92 and in '94, and we got the greatest reception because first of all, they don't have too many bands outside of the country coming to Israel, and in Israel there's no word for tribute in Hebrew. So Led Zeppelin tribute band, there was no word for tribute, so they said the Led Zeppelin band. So I know people knew we weren't the Led Zeppelin, but we were treated almost like we were Zeppelin.
That's funny.
And Doug would put the microphone out to the crowd. And, they would sing, and it would be Hebrew, good times, bad times, I've had my shit. It was funny.
That's
but they loved it, and we loved it. I love Israel. We made some really close friends, and we were there for like 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
And, stayed in Tel Aviv at a hotel right on the beach. It's beautiful there. So,
these are some amazing stories.
Yeah. You got to get Matt and Doug in here, and there's a million more. I mean, my memory is not that good, but there are a lot. That we played in Tulsa, Oklahoma once at a college, and there was a tornado, and the power went out.
Oh, scary.
We were on the second floor. They loaded the equipment into this hall on the second floor. Did a sound check. It was like a half an hour before we're going out. People are starting to come in, and hail coming down like crazy. It sounded like a freight train coming by. Dark. The sky was swirling all different ways. Actually, at the time, it was the worst tornado to ever hit Tulsa. Like 12 people were killed a few miles from where we were. So the power goes out. It's dark. If we don't play, we're not going to get paid.
Right.
It was a big paying gig. We went all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma to play this gig. We flew out there.
Right.
So if we don't play, we don't get paid. So, and this is the day before cell phones, so everything's word of mouth. There's no power anywhere. So by talking to the people at the school, can we get a generator? We need a power generator. We need people to bring the drums and the keyboards and all the sound equipment outside to a patio, which we did. We brought everything outside. We got these generators. We hooked everything up, got our power. The wind was still kind of whipping around.
I was going to say.
Yeah, there would have been about 500 people there. There was about 50 because most people said, oh, there's no power. There's going to be no show. But we played. We played right through it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But there's a million of those
It's
stories.
too bad that was the day before the cell phone because
someone
would have that on video and that would be really pretty cool.
Oh, my God. It's actually a good thing there was no cell phone videos. It's a good thing. A very good thing.
So let's talk about, definitely maybe a low point that you've had. What do you consider to be either your main obstacle, going through all the years, or, kind of the lowest
personal
point?
Or musical? Or
either, yeah. Sometimes they're
the
one and the same.
hardest thing for me was going through my divorce in 2009 now. But it's worked out. At the time, it was really rough.
Right.
And what helped me? I wrote some songs,
Perfect.
That's how I get out that stuff. Music is always in my life. Although now, it's part-time now. I work a regular job, driving a truck for All Waste,
out of
Hartford.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, up at 2:30 in the morning. I start. I leave my house at 3 a.m. and work till about 3 p.m.
Wow.
Regular job, yeah.
Are you supposed to be
so
sleeping
music,
right now?
Yeah,
or-
right. Yeah, actually, you're right. It is my bedtime. But I'm a musician. You know, that's like my passion, and so now it's more of a hobby. Like my songwriting, you know, it's really just a hobby. But I'll write songs and throw some videos up on YouTube, you know, in my spare time when I get a chance to. So.
Do you find you write more songs when you're at a low point, or do you do writing when
I find that it's hard.
it's both?
You know what I've learned is that I wish it wasn't this way. It's easy to write a sad song or a depressing song or kind of that feel, which maybe you'll hear some of my songs are heavy, sort of emotionally. It's hard to write a happy song. You know, it kind of is in some ways, and I wish I could get into that frame of mind to capture happiness and beauty, and you know, you can do it, but it takes a little more work. But it depends on where you are too.
Right.
But yeah. So my songs too, over the years, when I first started writing songs, like with J. Gandy Fox, with Joe, we wrote a lot of songs, and the music was really good. The lyrics were just cliche, you know. She loves me, she left me, I'm heartbroken, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, it's kind of hard to really write some good original lyrics, but it took me until, you know, fairly recently, getting middle-aged, to have something to really write about, you know, so that you really feel emotion for and deep, and they do come out, you know, and
And that helps.
it's not a career,
like therapy.
you know, it's not my career, it is more therapy, and it's more hobby and more fun, you know. I got to do the rock star thing with physical graffiti, so I kind of like already did that,
right.
not with my music, you know. And now my focus is, of course, my kids. I want to be around for them.
Right.
So, you know, it's fun. I love being on this show to get a chance to play some of my songs too. This is great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then what would you consider, like, you know, the high point? Like when you think back over, you know, just the many, many years and shows and events. I mean, you talked
Told
about
you some of them. Israel had so many gig meetings. Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. And
One of the high points was way back in like '88 or '89. We played in Rhode Island. Physical Graffiti played Rocky Point Amusement Park, and we had been playing the Living Room in Providence and Lupo's, which are big, legendary clubs. You know, they hold 1,000, 1,200 people. We started selling those clubs out, and we would be there every 3 or 4 months. And we developed. It was the timing. WHJY was playing a lot of Zeppelin at the time, and the timing was right, and we hit the scene, and we built up a following in Rhode Island and Boston too, Massachusetts. And so Rocky Point Amusement Park they had the Yardbirds played there in the '60s, or in the mid '60s. The actual Yardbirds,
wow.
you know, with Jimmy Page played there. So this is like 20 years later in '88, and we were playing there. We didn't know what to expect. It turns out over 10,000 people came there. And they were, you know, there's the amusement park, and there were people going on the rides, but 9,000 of those people or more were in front of our stage. So we didn't know it, you know, it's just another gig at the time.
Right,
we're playing a amusement park. It could be, you know, it could be nothing. And then we're back, you know, we're in a trailer in the back, and everybody's saying, wow, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people. And you start looking out, and you're like, holy cow. And you get nervous, you know, but that was something, playing for 10,000 people.
That's pretty
You
incredible.
know, like a, yeah.
It's a complete opposite of the 50 in Oklahoma,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right. And even less. We played to 4 people, you know. But getting back to Jeff Pitchell was on stage with the Allman Brothers recently. You know, did you see that?
I did not.
Yeah, Jeff was played at the Beacon Theater with the Allman Brothers.
Oh,
you know,
my goodness.
I was in a band with him. Sapphire. We played in his garage with his brother.
Oh, he talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. And Jeff is great. But I mean, guys from Wethersfield playing with the Allman Brothers. You know, amazing.
It is incredible.
Yeah. And then I played with Eamon with his Riders on the Storm band. He asked me to sit in. I know the Doors because of the keyboards. You know, and we played some shows upstate New York, like a biker festival, a couple thousand people, and it's just like all these friends doing some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Good shows.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what do you think? You know, having people on, we've called the show "Homegrown Talent Exposed." What do you think would be your exposed moment? Do you think it was?
You know what I wanted to do when I heard the name of the show? I wanted to come on with an overcoat, you know, and go like this and have like a pixelated cardboard thing in front. You know, "Homegrown Talent Exposed." So what was the question?
When do you think would be your moment where you, Gary Fox, were actually, you know, exposed, where, you know, it just kind of, you turned around and you said, wow, look where I am.
Probably with that Rocky Point gig.
Yeah.
In Rhode Island. And then from there it was the Channel. We played in Boston at the Channel. We would sell that place out, and that was a big club, 12 to 1,500 people. We played there a Friday night, and then Saturday night the Black Crowes were playing there when they first were coming up. And
Wow.
And it was one of the best gigs I remember. The band was just, there are those magical nights when all four guys are clicking on all cylinders, and you're just, the sound is perfect, the crowd. And it was one of those nights, and we came off, we went on, did an encore. We came off again, and we did another encore. I think we ended with Kashmir. And on the side of the stage, I see these guys wearing black, you know, long hair. I thought they might have been the opening act.
Right.
I didn't know. We finished playing, and it's the Black Crowes, and they come backstage. Oh, great show! I was like, oh, if I knew it was you guys, we would have called you up on stage.
Right.
And then years later, Jimmy Page played with the Black Crowes on an amazing tour, which I went to go see.
Oh, you did. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my God, they played Zeppelin like really, really well. It was awesome. But
that is awesome.
yeah.
So besides the music that you're writing now and in your job, do you have anything else?
Yeah. And one other thing that I'm into
talk about
is I have a public access TV show. It's called 9/11 Illumination, and it's in Middletown, Cromwell, Portland, East Hampton, Middlefield, Mondays at 10 o'clock. And it's the 9/11 Truth Movement, which for the last 6-7 years I've been involved with, kind of accidentally. Just reading some books, questioning things, like started with the Iraq War, you know, questioning. When 9/11 happened, I believed everything that they told us, you know, okay, 19 Arabs, you know, extremists, they hijacked the planes, they did this, and blah, blah, blah. But if you're someone who questions, you know, who doesn't just believe what you're told, which, you know, I like to dig a little deeper and find out why. So I think people say, what I hear most is they wouldn't do that, meaning Bush, the Bush administration. They wouldn't do that, meaning whether they planned it or whether they just knew it was coming and said, we're going to let it happen. Either way, people say that couldn't have happened. But if you look at an enormous amount of evidence, I don't want to go into the details, but that's what I've been into. So I have a whole show exposing the 9/11 official conspiracy theory, because the official theory is a conspiracy, you know, a dark conspiracy, and it's not easy for people to handle. And I don't, you know, I know it's tough to talk about, but it's something that is important, you know, if we're ever going to get to the bottom of, you know, why is our country going in the wrong direction? You know, why do we spend enormous amounts of money on the military-industrial complex, and it gets deeper and deeper than that. And my music goes along those lines. You'll see, you know, I have a song called Michael, Mohammed, and Emily, which is, you know, about the Iraq War and the invasion and how that was, we were lied to about that. Everybody now knows weapons of mass destruction. It was a big lie. Recently, the NSA spying, you know, for years there had been other NSA whistleblowers, and nobody kind of believed them, and then when the truth comes out, it's worse. You know, yeah, they're spying on all of us. And the next thing is 9/11.
Yeah.
The next thing is 9/11, and anyone who does a serious investigation of the evidence, you come away knowing that you're lied to. You know, as far as figuring out all the details, no. You know, I can't figure everything out, but you do know that it's there. That the way they said it happened didn't happen that way. So that's what my show's about. And some of my music, I have a song called April Soul, which is about, I was reading a book called The New Pearl Harbor Revisited by David Ray Griffin. And he's written about a dozen books on the whole 9/11. And he's in his 70s. He's a scholar from Claremont University in California, and he's written 35 books over his career, enormously well-researched and documented, and he uses the government's own papers. And I'm reading this book, and in it I learned about April Gallup, who worked at the Pentagon. She had top secret security clearance, and she was on maternity leave, and her newborn son, 2 months old, it was her first day back to work, and she had him in the stroller, and it was September 11th. And she goes into the Pentagon, and she was supposed to bring him to the daycare, and they said, no, bring him right to your desk, get right to work, and she goes, and the stroller's there, and according to her, the timing was, as soon as she pressed the button on her to start up her computer, to start her work, was a boom. And of course, the official story is the plane hit, and it was 35 feet from her desk. Wow. 35 feet. She was blown. Her baby was blown out of the stroller, and a huge explosion. And she reached down, because he was like a floor below, and she grabbed his onesie, dragged him out onto the lawn of the Pentagon. There's pictures of her and a fireman holding her baby. And, she suffered injuries, was in the hospital for a week or so, and her son's had some injuries too, but they're both alive. They're both well. While she was in the hospital, members of Air Force, Navy, Army, high up, came to see her, and they told her what happened. And they said a plane hit. She said, "Well, I didn't see a plane. I didn't see any seats or any engine. I walked out a small hole, barefoot, because her shoes were blown off. There was no fire." She said, and they said, no, this is what happened. So she started to tell the truth, and she got lambasted by everybody. And she's raised in a conservative, church-going Southern family to tell the truth and be honest. And she had a stellar record at the Pentagon for years. And and what happened with her is even in her neighborhood, people would throw eggs at her house, call her all kinds of names just because she wasn't going along with the official story. And she lost benefits, medical benefits. So anyway, on Facebook, I read this. So on Facebook,
this is the book that the gentleman wrote.
That
there,
David Ray Griffin wrote. So on Facebook, I said, I want to find more out about it. So I searched for April Gallup, and there was like a dozen of them. And every single one, I said, "Are you the April Gallup that worked at the Pentagon and is in David Gray?" And one of them finally wrote back, "Yeah, it's me." And we contacted, and I got her phone number, and I had a couple of years ago. She talked to me for hours a couple of times, telling me personal stuff that I can't even repeat. But what an ordeal it is to be in a situation like that, and your superiors tell you that you have to lie, and she has not said anything because she's probably afraid for her life.
Right.
If you think about it.
Off not saying anything.
So, and this is how bad it is. I had friends and family. I said, "Listen, let's get some money together," and raised a few $100, just asking
just to help
my family,
her, yeah.
really, and a couple friends, and $20 here, $20 there. I sent her some checks. I sent her some checks down south and to her address, and she hadn't cashed them for a while. And I said, "Did you get them?" She said, "Yeah, I did." She goes, "But I have to be careful. If I cash these, then I might not get the money that they're raising," which she never got anything. She got no help.
Wow.
All that money that they raised doesn't really go to the victims a lot of the times. It's a tragedy. So that's just one personal. And I have a song called April's Soul. That's what I was leading into.
Right.
So I'll play that for you in a little bit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that's where I am.
All right. All right. So, Gary, it would be great if you could do some of your work for us. And I think we have you all set up in our little corner over here.
Yeah, I'm a piano player, but I goof around on acoustic guitar, so I have a couple of songs that I wrote that I would love to play. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good to me. This song is called Quieter, and I love to hike, take my kids hiking. I mean, today's kids are on screens like 7 hours a day, whether it's a phone, iPad, TV, computer. And it's not good for your eyes, and it's not good for your mental health. So this song's called Quieter. I need a break from the breaking news, and I'm allergic to commercials too. My blood pressure goes through the roof when television kills the truth. Turn it off and I feel a little bit lighter. Well, I forget what I already know to follow Henry David Thoreau. Take a walk out in the woods. I will remember all that is good, and I can breathe again. Well, I'll turn off my cell phone. I'm not afraid to be all alone. All these things that I think I own don't mean nothing. Maybe something. I guess it's easier said than done, 'cause my mind is overrun for all these things that I need to buy, and I don't even really know why. The devil is a marketing genius. I need a break from the breaking news, and I'm allergic to commercials too. My blood pressure goes right through the roof when television kills the truth. Turn it off and I feel a little bit lighter, and my world's a little brighter. I'm just trying to make my life a little fun. Let's see what I'll do now. Next, I'll play a song, this was written right after the Iraq War started, and watching what was going on with, the lies that the leaders tell to send our kids into fight, And there's been peace songs written for forever, and this is just another one in a long line. But it's from the perspective I'm imagining I'm a soldier going to fight. It's called, this is called Michael, Mohammed, and Emily. Send me off and pray for me. I'm off to kill the enemy. If I don't make it back, please don't call me a hero. Heroes are not terrified. They always make it home alive. Brave and strong, their eyes sparkle with pride. But not me, not me. I'm wired differently. Something deep inside of me questions what they're telling me. It shouldn't be such a big deal to want to know why. We are flying halfway around the world. Kiss goodbye, my little girl, and lie to my wife that it'll be alright. 'Cause I know what I'm not fighting. God, not for country, not for my mother's love for her son, not for Michael, Mohammed, or Emily. I'm not fighting for anyone. I hear Mary Tillman and I see Cindy Sheehan, and I wonder where they get their strength. There must be something higher, the oxygen in their fire, how godlike they are to offer up His Son. But for what? For what? I don't know. Not for God, not for country, not for my mother's love for her son, not for Michael, Mohammed, or Emily. I'm not fighting for anyone, not for God, not for country, not for my mother's love for her son, not for Michael, Mohammed, or Emily. What are we fighting for? Heavy song. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when I was younger and wrote songs, the lyrics were very cliche and I didn't pay attention. And as I get older and hopefully wiser a little bit, I start listening to the lyrics to the songs and how important they are. So, then I start writing songs that mean something. So I'll do one more if that's okay. This song is called April's Soul. There's a story to it. It's about April Gallup. It's the first half of the song is basically the story, and the second half is expounding on it. So it's called April's Soul. There is a story that must be told, which is why I pray for April's soul. She took her newborn baby to work one day. When she turned on her computer, blew up in her face. The ceiling caved in on April and her son. Oh my God, what have they done? Well, she was lucky to crawl out alive when over 120 people in the Pentagon died. April had the courage to tell the truth. You never know what you will be called to do. When they got on her case, she took them straight to court. But she lost her case and benefits, to make a long story short. I wonder where she is today, and I wonder what she has to say. And so I pray for April's soul. I hope she knows that she's not alone. Can you admit, or you're afraid to know? Can you pray for April's soul? I knew a woman who had a heart of gold. You won't believe it when I tell you what she sold. I never thought she would, but she did. She had to sell herself just to save a kid. We ain't too pretty and we ain't too nice. Almost everybody has his price. Well, I think that I won't, but I probably will. Sell my soul for a suitcase full of $100 bills. You see them on TV from New York to D.C. Senators, CEOs, and commissioners all lying through their teeth. When I look in their eyes and when I study their face, I wonder if they had a soul to sell in the first place. Which is why I pray for April's soul. I hope she knows that she's not alone. Can you admit what you're afraid to know? Can you pray for April's soul? I pray for April's soul. I hope she knows that she is not alone. Can you admit what you're afraid to know? Can you pray for April's soul? Thank you.
Well,
thank you,
everyone that comes in, normally what we do is we have you sign the board, too.
All right.
So for being a guest on the show, and we have a gift for you. So, and I tell everyone that way you can look just like me.
Yeah. Homegrown Talent Exposed. I
You
love
get
it.
a
Thank
shirt.
you.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it. Really fun.
Come on over. You can sign the board.